Okay, so here we go. I'll just wait a moment for everybody to join, and then we can start.
Perfect.
So welcome everybody. Welcome to our presentation and welcome to our virtual open day for the Master in Management at ESCP Business School. We have a general presentation for you this morning, and there are other webinars taking place slightly later in the afternoon that I'll talk to you a little bit about later. I have the schedule for you. So my name is David McDonald. I am working in the recruitment team for the Master in Management program, and I'm based in Paris. So I'll be taking you through a couple of different points of the Master in Management today, a kind of overview of the program. And then later in the afternoon, we also have more detailed webinars on specific topics. So it would be great as well if you can join those. For those of you that have questions, at the end of the webinar, we also have a Q&A, so stick around for that and feel free to, if you have questions, to drop them in the chat. So we're also very happy, well, I'm very happy to also be joined by two current Master in Management students, Mathilda and Rowena, who I will hand over the microphone to introduce yourselves. So Rowena, would you like to just
Hello, everyone. So yeah, my name is Rowena. I am currently in my first year, so in the M1. So I am currently based on the Paris campus, and I'm staying in Paris for the second semester as well. And before ESCP, I was at the University of Warwick studying international management. So yeah, feel free to ask any questions. We're really here to help.
Perfect. Thank you, Rowena.
Okay, lovely. So I'm Mathilda. It's nice to meet you all. I'm French and Belgian. I grew up in South France. I studied economics and business economics in my undergrad at Erasmus University, and I'm now in M1 here in Berlin, and I'll be moving to Madrid for my second semester. And yeah, again, if you have any questions about anything, just shoot and we'll answer.
Perfect. Well, thank you. So I noticed we already have a question in the Q&A, which is great. So feel free to submit your questions. The students might actually answer a couple of them directly, but as I say, we have time at the end to answer them. So without further ado, just to kind of give you a little introduction to today's virtual open day, we have 3 different stands. So we have a general information stand. We also have one stand dedicated to admissions because obviously you're applying probably to the program. So that's where in the first instance, you have a lot of questions. Careers, we have a stand dedicated to careers. So if you have questions about that, you can go to that stand. And on each stand, we have both some staff working from our recruitment team or also some staff from our marketing team. And we also have our student representatives who are connected to answer your questions. So you can message them in a chat, or you can also request a video call. And if the students are free or the staff is free, they'll be able to take a short video call with you. The last thing to note is you can also download the program brochure, which is really great because it's comprehensive. It has all of really the information about the program that we'll talk about today, but also much, much more. So if you get a chance, download the brochure. That way, if you are unsure of something, you can go and have a look in the brochure when you have time later on. And as I already mentioned, don't miss our webinars later in the day. We have 2 more webinars to really help you get informed about the program. So what I usually like to start with the Master in Management, because it's really one of the most asked about topics, is what can I do once I graduate with a Master in Management? So I start a little bit with the career opportunities that are available to you as a Master in Management graduate, or will be available to you as a Master in Management graduate. And what I've done, I've chosen a couple of key figures and given you some information about what our graduates, what our alumni are doing. So this is our most recent job survey, which is usually from, let's say, last year. which will be the students that graduated a couple of years ago. As you can see, 100% of those students found a job within 3 months of graduation, which is really an excellent and important employability rate. It's really the #1 objective, I think, of master programs is to get you on the job market, and in our case, actually on the international job market. So many of the students, you are also over half of them are already employed before they graduate from the program. And one of the interesting things about the Master in Management you'll see with the international component is that you are likely to be working outside of your home country, or if you choose to stay in your home country, then you'll also likely be working in, for example, an international firm, a multinational firm, or let's say there will be some kind of international dimension to your job. The salary is a key metric for this program, and after 3 years from graduating, our average salary for MIM graduates is over 100,000 USD. So one thing that we note with the Master in Management program in the first couple of years is that you see a real progression in your salary, which is important because it really accelerates your career, I think, a Master in Management program. This also on the right-hand side gives you a little bit of an idea about what type of jobs you can aspire to once you graduate. We have a high percentage that are working in both consulting and finance, and you'll see in a moment that we have a lot of specializations which will help you become an expert in those areas of management in order to have the best opportunity to be employed in those areas. The other thing to note is that we have a career center that works across all of our European campuses. They organize a lot of events, and we work with a lot of different partners. So I put some really, I just chose a little bit at random, the companies, to give you an idea of which companies are employing our students both for internships and also in their graduate program. So once you graduate, these are a lot of the companies that really crosses a broad range of different industries. We're very lucky today that both of our students are working as representatives for the Career Center. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about what you've done with the Career Center up to now, and if you've managed to participate. I know you're both in your first semester, so you're quite new to the program as well, but if you've taken part in any of the Career Center events. Mathilda?
Okay, yes. So here in Berlin, we have a really competent team for the Career Center. We organize actually every Thursday a career event or it's a talk from someone who comes from a company, or you have several recruiters who come. So we have a lot of different events, or for example, how to make your CV better, how to work on a cover letter. So it's super, super insightful. I go every Thursday, so it's kind of like a routine here. At the Berlin campus every Thursday, there's the career. And we also have several career fairs. We had one yesterday that was really successful with over 30 companies, and they would come in their booths and have some one-on-one, some pre-interviews. It was really nice to help organize as well because I could be very close to companies. I went to lunch with them. It was great. And we also have a sustainability orientated company fair that's coming up soon where we can meet companies who are more involved in those kind of areas. So yeah, it's just been a lot of fun helping organizing, and we do get a lot of opportunity to meet people, meet recruiters, and learn more about the companies in general.
Rona, I don't know whether you've had a
Yeah,
chance
I
to
just wanted
participate.
to add that we also have really great workshops, and access to really great tools like VMOC, for example, is a really good tool that we have access to that really optimizes your CV. So that's great. We also have really practical advice for optimizing your LinkedIn, which is great. Translating it from English to French, making sure that you've got everything there to make you stand out to potential recruiters. And also, yeah, we in the beginning of October, we had our career fair on the Paris campus, which was really great. So we could really talk to all the companies that I was interested in. I was interested in consulting, so I could share my CV. They also gave me advice on how to improve my CV. And yeah, that was the career center at the Paris campus is really great. So, and I think all different campuses as well. So yeah.
Perfect. Thank you very much. The only thing that I would add maybe is that as an ESCP student, you have access to all of the events on all of the campuses. So if you would like to maybe do your internship in Germany, but you're on the Paris campus, you can participate in the careers events that are taking place on the Berlin campus. So that's a real advantage of ESCP having campuses in different European countries. So I hope that I've managed to spark your interests, and if so, great. I can give you a bit of a more detailed overview of the program in that case. So the one thing to note about the program is that it's something that is very personalizable in the sense that you can customize many aspects of the program to fit what your career aspirations are. So it's a general management program, but with the opportunity to specialize through your choice of courses and, for example, your internships, so that when you complete the program, you're specialized in, let's say, up to 3 different areas of management, actually. The one thing that all students will share is the general structure of the program. So it's a 2-year study program, and there's also an element of work experience to complete while you're in the program. And all students need to attain, let's say, the academic requirements in terms of following the number of courses, taking part in the seminars, and as I mentioned, the work experience. But there's also a large area of what you get to choose. So we'll touch a little bit more on this in a moment, but all students get the French master's degree, which is a globally recognized master's degree, but you can also choose to get some supplementary degrees. Or if you decide to leave ESCP and study in another country at one of our partner universities, you have that opportunity to get a dual degree. You choose, as I mentioned briefly, your specialization or which electives you would like to take. And also, as we'll see in a moment, your campuses where you choose to study. There is, after you complete your M1, you have some flexibility in terms of whether you would like to do a gap semester or a gap year to complete your work experience. But we also have an option, which is a work study track, which we call, it's the apprenticeship, which is available in Paris. I'm not going to touch too much on that option today, but if you're interested in it, then feel free to ask about it on the stand. Or I will also be organizing a webinar dedicated to the apprenticeship track in December. So if you're signed up to hear about Master in Management events, then you'll definitely be invited to that by email. So let's have a little bit more of a look at the structure of the program. As I mentioned, it's a 2-year study program, so you have 2 semesters per year. Your first semester is your core courses, so you can choose where you would like to study the core courses. They're the same on all of the campuses, whether you choose to start in Berlin, London, Madrid, Paris, or Turin. And then throughout the program, you can choose to change your campus or stay on the same campus that you're in. What we ask is really that you change at least once during the program. So for example, if you spend your first 2 semesters in Paris, maybe in your second year, you decide that you would like to change and complete in Madrid. But if you wish, you can change campus each semester, which means you can study in up to 4 different European countries. And then maybe you would even like to do your work experience in another country. Rowena, you mentioned you're in Paris. Why did you choose to come to Paris? And can you tell us maybe what motivated you in your choice?
Yeah, so I put Paris as my first choice. First of all, because I wanted to be in the center of Paris. The ESCP campus is in the center, so that's great. Also, I am looking to do a gap year in Paris. So I want to do 2 internships in Paris, and I thought it was the best decision to go to Paris so I can network with recruiters in Paris during the career fairs, or go to coffees, I don't know, with recruiters directly in Paris. So I think that was why I chose Paris, and I also want to stay in Paris as well for that reason, to be able to do maybe the interviews in Paris for that gap year. But I'm planning on going to Madrid in M2.
Perfect. Mathilda, too, you mentioned you're currently in Berlin, but I think you're already planning to change campus for your second semester. Is that right?
Yes, that's it. I want to go to Madrid for the next one.
Perfect. So as you see, you have the opportunity to change campus depending on really where perhaps you, as Rowena mentioned, where you would like to perhaps work, because that can help you network while you're on that campus. But like I mentioned, you also have access to the career fairs, things like that, whether regardless of which campus you're on, actually. So after your first semester and you've completed the core courses, this is when you can start to specialize. So in your second semester, third and fourth semester, you can take a specialization, meaning you can take up to 3 different specializations during the program. In the Master in Management, we have 70 different specializations in all different areas of management. So for example, if you're interested in finance, within finance, we have a number of different specializations. For example, I know one that is very often popular is investment banking. That is a specialization that's available on all campuses, and both in fall and spring semester, in order to allow the maximum number of students to take that specialization. If you're less interested in corporate finance, but maybe you're more interested in, let's say, financial control or auditing, there are specializations in those areas. We also have in marketing, sustainability. There's also some interesting industry-specific specializations. Both Mathilda and Rowena mentioned Madrid. In Madrid, we have a specialization in real estate. So maybe if you're interested in going to working in real estate management, that could be something that's interesting. I know there's also one that's quite interesting in Paris that's quite popular, which is sport management. So that's another choice, which is really specific to one industry, and less broad, let's say. Mathilda, have you've, I guess, done your choice for your second semester of specialization? Can you tell us maybe what you chose?
Yes, so I chose the International Business Consulting in Madrid. It was my first choice, so I'm very happy about it. I'm interested in a lot of different areas. That's also why I chose the MIM, actually. And so my first year, I wanted it to be a bit more management strategy orientated, and that's why I chose the consulting specialization. And then in my second year, I'm looking more into finance orientated specializations, and then more into Paris or London. So
Perfect. Thank you very much. So that's the general structure of the MIM if you choose to study at ESCP. One thing to note is that I didn't mention, there is a short pre-term, which is an online semester or term for students that join the Master in Management program without a previous background having studied management. So let's say maybe you've studied an engineering degree, or let's say a law degree, or even a literature degree. You can still apply to the Master in Management. You can apply with any bachelor discipline. And for students that don't have the background in management, we have what we call the catch-up courses, which is this online pre-term during the summer before semester 1. And that just allows you to get up to scratch in order to join the core courses during your first semester. You also have the opportunity, if you wish, during your M2 year, to leave ESCP if you would like to maybe join one of our partner universities or partner schools in Europe or outside of Europe. So we have partner universities and schools all around the world. And in that case, we have 2 types of agreements. We have a dual degree agreement, which would mean that you spend your entire M2 years studying with the partner school in order to have your ESCP master degree, and you'll also get a dual degree, so a master degree from the partner university. And that, in most cases, will also be a specialized master's degree, because the objective really in your second year is to begin to specialize in the area of management you would like to work in. You can also, if you wish, just do one exchange semester. The difference being, obviously, it's only one semester of your M2, and you won't have a dual degree in that case. But of course, you still have your dual degree, your master degree from ESCP. I mentioned it briefly. You can decide whether you start immediately your M2 year or whether you would like to do a gap semester or a gap year in order to complete your internships. A lot of students will take a gap year in order to do 2 6-month internships, for example. And obviously, we touched on it in our last slide. There's a lot of events where companies will come to ESCP to recruit their interns. I'll make a note on the fees. There is an application fee to apply to the Master in Management, which is €180. This will be explained in the next webinar, which is dedicated to the admission process. The tuition fees for the 2025 intake, so for those applying this year to join the program in September 2025, for EU students, it's 24,700, and for non-EU students, it will be 28,300. That includes all fees, so the student service fee. It also includes lifelong membership to the Alumni Association. So the ESCP school, ESCP Business School, has now over 80,000, a network of over 80,000 alumni, which are really in almost every country in the world, actually. The great thing about that is that you have kind of a network of support wherever you go to work. The Alumni Association also organizes a lot of events. In fact, I'm taking part next week in an event in Morocco for students that are based there, just to kind of animate the Alumni Association. There are some scholarships available. We have both merit and financial need-based scholarships. So for non-EU students, you will automatically, if you apply directly to the school or through what we call Join a School in France, be considered for a scholarship, and you'll be informed during the admission process, usually in the admission email, whether you've been selected for a scholarship or not. And for EU students, there's also scholarships available based on your on financial needs. So we'll ask you to submit some documents and you can apply for that. One note that I would like to make a strong point, opportunity to get more than one degree. So there's, without leaving the ESCP campuses, you can get more than one degree. So all students, regardless of which campus they study on, will get the Master in Management French master degree, which is an internationally recognized master's degree. But if you do study on some other campuses, you also have the opportunity to get, for example, in Germany, by spending at least one semester on our Berlin campus, you can get the German Master of Science degree. If you study in the UK at least one semester, you could also, for example, get the UK master's degree. So sometimes I think it's interesting, depending on where you would like to work later on, so depending on your career aspirations, to think about maybe getting a local degree, because I think it can sometimes help you just to open doors that might not be available. The other way to get additional degrees that we've already mentioned are dual degrees and exchanges. So in the Master in Management during your M2 year, you can spend the entire year at one of our partner universities or partner schools all around the world. And we actually have, in Asia, we have over 25 international partners. There are more than 40 in Europe. So you can stay in Europe but leave ESCP if there's a really interesting dual degree option that you would like to specialize in. We have several partnerships in the Americas, but also in Africa and in Australia, for example. That gives you an idea. There's over, I believe now, 46 dual degrees available. The most recent that we've signed actually is with Columbia Engineering School in the US. So that's very interesting. They have a number of different options for their dual degree. But you can specialize in accounting, finance, hospitality management. Really, there's a lot of different choices. So before we move on to the Q&A section of this webinar, I'd just like to remind you that we have 2 other webinars taking place during the afternoon, which we would very much like to see you at. So at 2 p.m., one of my colleagues from the Turin campus is hosting an admission tips webinar. So he'll talk you through the whole admissions process and really give you the best advice for how to prepare your admissions, application, sorry. And then at 3:30 Paris time, we have an alumni stories webinar. So that will give you an idea of how studying the Master in Management helped to boost those graduates' careers, what they did after the Master in Management, and you might be able to kind of project more in terms of your own personal journey after the Master in Management. So I notice a lot of you have been submitting questions, which is great. Let's run through some of them. I think we have about 20 minutes to start. Let's have a look. So I'm going to just open the Q&A. So Mathilda, Rowena, if you see any questions that you would like to address, feel free to jump in. Otherwise, I'm going to run through them chronologically that I see them. So I have one from Flavio, who's asking for information about the apprenticeship track. So the apprenticeship track, I haven't touched on it too much. Like I said, I will do a webinar for the apprenticeship early December. So you're definitely invited to join that. I haven't yet sent out the invitations, but they'll be sent out during the week. There are 2 options available for the apprenticeship track in the Master in Management. You can do M1 and M2, or you can choose to study your M1 first and then join the apprenticeship track during your M2 year. Both options have, let's say, advantages depending on your eligibility. So you need to be able to speak French, for example, in order to be able to join the apprenticeship track, because the classes for those students are taught only in French. And obviously you'll be working in a French company. But the advantages are really good because you are earning a salary during the time that you're studying and working. And also usually your fees, your tuition fees, will be paid by the company that is employing you as an apprentice. So it's super interesting, I think. So definitely join the webinar in early December if you're interested in that option. There's a couple of questions about the admissions. Like I said, there is a webinar dedicated to the admission process at 2 p.m. So feel free to join that. And I don't think we'll touch on it too much today. I have a question here about the languages in the Master in Management. Mathilda, which languages are you taking? How many languages do you need to take in the program? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Usually those who are not able to prove fluency in English, so those who have not studied previously in an English-speaking country or who have a sufficient score on the English requirements test, take an English class, and on top of that, another language class. Since I'm exempt from English, I'm taking only one other language class, and that I also speak fluent French. So the idea is at the end of the program to speak 3 languages roughly fluently. And so it is a hard requirement. So people have to take languages if they're not able to speak fluently 3 languages. And I'm currently taking Spanish in a B1 level. It's a lot of fun. And since we're able to take as many extracurricular languages as we want for free, included in the program, I'm also taking German in an extracurricular, so I'm not graded. I don't have a final exam. I can just go to class, learn a little bit of German, and that's it.
Perfect. Yeah, I mean, the idea of the program really is to get you ready to work on the international job market. So that's why I think that we really put a focus during your M1 year on learning languages so that you have the best, all of the skills that you need to work internationally. So English obviously is important, but if you would like to work in Germany or France, I think it's very good to have a good basis in the local language. It will definitely help you to find a job in those countries. Let's see. So there's several questions. There's a question. Yeah, go ahead.
If I can add the last point about the language classes, just because it can be a little bit unconventional, but so that people know, the classes are not very grammar orientated and very technical. It's a lot of how to speak and how to understand the spoken language, and so that it's orientated for professional use. So it's a lot of presentations in the language, learning how to be comfortable with it. So yeah, just so that for clarification.
Perfect, thank you. So there's a question here. I aim to specialize in entrepreneurship and launch a startup during my studies or post-graduation. Are there any facilities available to support such endeavors? So actually the school has what we can call a kind of incubator. It's called the Blue Factory. If you're interested in that, I would say go on to the school website and look, or just search in Google ESCP Blue Factory. Really, it's an incubator exactly for this purpose, to help accompany you in building your startup if you have an idea for a startup. And really what it offers is a lot of expert advice and like a kind of hand holding, let's say, in some aspects, to work on whatever your entrepreneurship idea is. So you'll be able to participate in that as a Master in Management student. Like I say, it's not really the focus today of the webinar. So if you're interested in that, feel free to go on to Google and search Blue Factory, ESCP, blue like the color. Let's have a look, because there's quite a few questions coming in now. So Rowena, maybe you can tell us a little bit more about the core courses. Which are the topics that you study? How is the workload? And what are the courses like? So is it primarily small groups? Is it lectures? What's the kind of pedagogical approach at ESCP?
Yeah, so the first semester is only core courses and also the language courses. So it ranges from finance, strategy, accounting, HR, yeah, so your main management courses, I would say. And in terms of assessment, so we have 50%, I would say, in most of our modules, group work, quizzes. We have some weekly quizzes. And then 50% is the exam, the final exam, which takes place in December. I would say the workload is manageable, although you still have to work hard to, especially in the group projects, I would say. And I think that's what's really good at ESCP is that you do have weekly quizzes in nearly all of the subjects, which really allows you to learn as you go. And so when you arrive at the exam in December, you're not completely lost and have to start all over again, because you really have to follow through during the semester. And also, I think you have to have like a minimum requirement of hours that you've done in the past before ESCP. And so if you don't have, if you haven't done maybe like a management course, or like a finance course, or like accounting, maybe you might have to during the summer there's the catch-up courses, so I think it's good to talk about that. Yeah.
And did either of you take the catch-up courses?
I didn't, because I did international management before, so I already had all the courses, but I know some friends that did, and it was manageable as well. They had a lot of information during the summer, so they could have fun during summer, but also do the courses, so it was okay.
Perfect. There's a couple of questions about the specializations. Somebody asking, for example, would we need to choose a major like marketing and then choose 3 specializations within that major? So no, you actually have a free choice of what your specializations are. So if you choose a specialization in marketing in your M1, you don't need to stay in marketing, let's say, for your other 2 choices because you can take up to 3 specializations. If finally one of the areas of management that you studied is not well adapted to what your career aspirations are, then you can change your specialization. Mathilda, we've already talked a little bit about your choice. Could you tell us about how the choice is made, perhaps?
Yes, so after admission, so by June, everyone knows whether they're in or not. And in July, they will tell us, okay, for your second semester, these are all the different options. This is which ones are the most competitive, which ones are in which campuses, and kind of the overall syllabus, what we will learn. And then we get to choose according to, for example, which campus we want to be in and what different specializations we're interested in. We give 4 choices, and then it's kind of chosen on a rolling basis. Usually Master 2 students have priority over the high demand specializations, because it seems fair that if they've been waiting their whole masters to do that, they get to do it at least at the end of it. Yeah, and overall, it's really interesting because there's so many different areas of business that you can do, and it's tailored to the different campuses. So here in Berlin, we have a lot of people doing like digital and sustainability and entrepreneurship, because that's values that we have in Berlin. It's a huge startup hub. And so we get to apply within these specializations to the city. So we have a lot of professionals in sustainability that come to see the sustainability students, stuff like this.
Sorry, I have my microphone muted. Perfect. So there's a couple of practical questions about visas that usually I don't touch on too much, but there's information on the ESCP website. At the top, there's different options that you can select, and one of those is student services. So if you click on student services, in there you have information about visas and residence permits, and that will help you to understand about different countries, what the requirements are for applying to visas. But usually I would say, as a non-European student, you will need a student visa, which often then, if you complete your program, your Master in Management program in that country, you also have the right to stay to work in that country for a certain amount of time before maybe then being sponsored by a company to stay for longer. But I don't like to give information about visas because it really can be specific to your personal situation. One thing that we can maybe touch on is accommodation. Rowena, obviously you've moved to Paris to study at ESCP. I know that the student affairs team provides information about finding accommodation. Is that something that you relied on? There's a big ESCP network in each of the countries that we have a campus, which I think facilitates finding accommodation as well. Maybe you can touch on your experience finding accommodation.
Yeah, so I think that ESCP, yeah, they do provide a lot of links to what do you call them? Like colocation. When
Yeah,
you're
like flat share.
Yeah, flat sharing, exactly. But that wasn't specifically in Paris, but I think that when you're changing maybe a campus, so if you're going from Paris to Madrid, for example, there's a lot of messages on the group chats of ESCP where people say, oh, I'm leaving this apartment, maybe we can switch, or does anybody know if there's an apartment available or a room available in one of your apartments? So yeah, so there's a lot of options, I think, and it gets easier when you're already in ESCP, maybe for switching campus. Yeah, other than that, I'm not too aware about the student affairs team. I didn't get involved with them, but I do know that they'd help for accommodating students.
Perfect. Mathilda, you have your hand up.
Yes. So to add on to that, they're also actually right now creating a network that's managed by ESCP itself instead of students going into group chats for people to connect people who are moving. For example, oh, I'm going to Madrid and someone's leaving Madrid, I could take their room. So they're creating networks. They also have a lot of discount codes for different platforms. So for example, for Madrid, I booked my housing through Spotahome. And on the ESCP affairs, one of the student websites for ESCP, there's discount code. So I got minus 100 euros on my booking fee with Spotahome. So stuff like this. And then we also would have contact directly with people from these different housing platforms. So Housing Anywhere, Spotahome, most of these platforms for like several months, short-term housing. And then we can directly speak to representatives through ESCP.
Very good. Thank you very much. There's a question here about the pre-master year, and then I have a question for you both about student life on campus and extracurricular activities. So we haven't touched on today the pre-master year. I've really just presented what we call the master cycle, which is the M1 and M2 year. And you can join the M1 and M2 year with a bachelor degree in any discipline, but there's also an option to join the program and to study an additional pre-master year before joining the master cycle. So that's quite a specific option available in France, where it's taught in French for students that have done 2 years of French classe préparatoire, which is a preparatory course to join a business school in France. Or you can also join in English on the Turin campus if you have at least 120 ECTS credits for your higher education, meaning that you would be on your in your second year of your bachelor. But if you just are studying your regular bachelor, you're in your final year, you can apply during your final year. You have until November to graduate, or the end of November to graduate, if you're joining the program in September, and you would join directly into the M1 year, either starting directly in M1, semester 1, if you have previously studied management, or with the additional summer term if you, for example, have an engineering background or a legal background or any other kind of background that you didn't fully cover all the different topics in management. So I hope that's clear. So like I said, one of the questions that I noticed that came up, which I think is super interesting, is about student life on campus. There are a lot of different associations that you can take part in. Mathilda and Rowena, you're on different campuses, so maybe you have a different vision of what student campus life is like. Can you tell us a little bit about any activities that you've taken part in or that you would like to maybe take part in later on in the program?
Yeah, I'll start. Well, I definitely want to get more involved in the sports. I know that they have a lot of sports club on campus. I think over like 30 different sports. So that's definitely one thing. There's also a big student organization at ESCP. So in Paris, they organize loads of events, student parties where they privatize clubs, and yeah, so that's great. And there's also a bar on campus where most of the students meet up after, and we get to socialize and meet different people from that are not necessarily in our classes, which is great. So yeah, I've been really enjoying it. I think you're on mute.
Sorry, I'm Mathilda.
Yes, so here in Berlin campus, I've actually been involved in a few different things that are more extracurricular but school orientated. So, of course, the career and marketing ambassadors, like Rowena is also doing. I'm also there's this new association that's called VP where we can help out some bachelor students by tutoring courses that we've done in the past. So, for example, international economics, and 4 hours a week, I teach and I get to meet the bachelors and it's pretty fun. They're quite cute. It's really nice. And then I also take part in student research here with the HR chair. I'm researching women in finance, and it's a lot of fun. It's a qualitative research, so it's also something that I've taken part in. And here in Berlin, we also have a few associations that are really present. And there's also Dr. Faust, which was one of the key associations here in Berlin. It's a music and electronic music association, and on campus we have every Thursday after the career event, we have a kind of party night where one of the buildings is just DJs and we're dancing and we have cheap drinks and it's on campus, so it's a lot of fun, as Rowena said. And yeah, and I applied for the Finance Society, so hopefully I get in and then I'll be able to know more about the societies as well.
Very nice, thank you. Yes, we're very happy when students are joining and they have interest in taking part in different societies, because it really helps to animate student life. And really, there's all different types of societies available. So like they've mentioned, there's finance, but there's also a lot of different sporting societies. I know on the Paris campus, there's also a gym, so you can participate in classes, but also there's a kind of free access to the gym as well if you would like to join that. Obviously, as a student, you get a reduced rate. So that can be very interesting. I've noticed a couple of questions. Like I said, there's a few questions about the admissions that we're not going to touch on because there's a dedicated webinar that will start shortly after this one at 2 p.m. Paris time. So definitely join that one if you have questions about what the English level needs to be, whether you're what type of profile we're looking for in the program, but also just tips on how best to prepare your application. The other thing I noted is that there's a couple of questions about our Master of Science programs. So we have many different Masters of Science programs, and we also have an MBA program, particularly for students that have more experience. Today's event is really focused on the Master in Management, so I'm not going to touch on either of those programs, but on the website of the school, so on escp.eu, you can go and look at those programs, and for each program on the right-hand side, there's a little tab that says Contact. So if you have questions about those programs, you can contact the recruiter for that program. Usually they'll be very happy to have your contact and will be able to offer you a call. You can try to book with them and ask them to book a call, which is great. What I've done now here is I have shared the contact information for our Master in Management. On each campus, we have a recruitment team for the Master in Management. So depending on where you're based, if you're in Germany, you can obviously get in touch with Barbara, who's based on our Berlin campus, and she'll be more than happy to answer any questions. But like I say, we have 3 stands today. We have one for the admissions, we have one for careers, and we have a general Master in Management stand. So first instance, try to join the stand that you are looking for information about today. Try to chat with the students or chat with one of our staff members, see if you can get an answer. And really, if you are not able to find your answer today or the information that you're looking for is not in the brochure, then you have the contact. You can get in touch with one of our staff members, and they'll usually try to get back to you within a day or two later in the week. So I think we've touched on most of the questions that are about the general program. Let's just have one more overview. Yeah, so I think we've touched on most of them. And thank you very much, both of you, for taking part. Maybe we have one final word just to kind of give you some encouragement to join the program. The one thing that I would like to say is that we really enjoy getting applications from very internationally minded people, people that are open to joining a program that at its heart is very, very international. You can see that you'll be spending time in many different countries with other students from different backgrounds, both in terms of their study background and in terms of where they come from. So we have a very international cohort every year. So if that seems like something that you would be interested in, it's a very exciting environment to be a part of, then definitely consider joining the program. I'll hand over to you guys if you have just one final, maybe a word of encouragement for the spectators today, or anything that you would like to add about the program before we end the session. Mathilda? Sorry to
Yes,
put you on
so
the
again,
spot.
no, of course, I of course encourage everyone to apply. I know a lot of people have doubts, and of course you can join the admissions webinar. But you should know that it's not like, oh, I don't have this exact GMAT score, I can't, it's look at everything at ESCP, so it's a broader view. And again, what I like the most about ESCP is diversity, but not only diversity in the people, also diversity in where you can study, what you can study, all the different extracurriculars you can take, the societies, and everything you can kind of just get involved with, and all the different areas of business you can explore to kind of really build a portfolio of skills that prepares you for a career.
Thank you very much. And Rowena, if you have a final word.
Yeah, I would also encourage everyone to apply. And yeah, same as Mathilda said, when I first applied, I was full of doubts, not sure where I wanted to go. And actually, the MIM was for me the best solution because it was so broad. I could go back into finance, looking at consulting again, looking at marketing, and really start deciding from there. And now that I've joined, I feel a lot more reassured for my career. I feel like all the courses that I'm attending are very much linked to my future career. So I know what I'm now learning I know that it's going to serve me for the future, which is great. So yeah, I really do encourage everyone to apply, and also feel free, to request the one-to-one meetings, because I'm on the admission stand, so I can help maybe for like interview tips or CV personal statement tips. Yeah.
Perfect. So thank you very much. Yes, there are 2 more webinars, so definitely attend those. If you have questions, join one of the stands and send in your messages. And like I say, if you don't get your answer today, then the teams are available there for you to answer your questions. I would just like to thank you for joining us today. I really hope that we've inspired you to learn more about the program and also to apply. Like they said, you never know unless you apply, and we're really very open in terms of the profiles that we would like to join the program. So thank you everybody that joined today, and also special thanks to Mathilda and Rowena for attending, for participating, and really helping me to answer your questions today. And I hope you enjoy the rest of our open day. Have a good afternoon, everybody.
Bye. Thank you.